Poetry is sometimes the only way to say something. What is poetry to you? Can you describe it? There's a lot of information on each of these slides because you'll need a lot of different strategies to help your students become poets. What do you agree with on this page about what is poetry? You can find poetry almost anywhere. In the 1970s, I was sitting in an airport crocheting when a man walked by and dropped this piece of paper in my lap. He told me that he wrote this poem for me. I keep telling the high school girls if they want to find a man, go to the airport and knit or crochet. In airports, usually the men ask me what I'm working on, not the women. Think about why children learn to dislike poetry. Which one of these reasons speaks to you? What was your experience in elementary and middle school with being exposed to poetry? If it wasn't a good experience, is there a way to make it better for your students? As you see, poetry can be very complicated or very simple. Which comes first, the poem itself or the form? Poetry is distinguishable from prose primarily because of its distinct patterns or forms. The variety of patterns, in turn, distinguishes one form of poetry from another. Of the many forms of poetry, there are a few teachers commonly used in elementary school. Narrative poems tell stories. Lyric poetry is melodic or song-like. Generally, it is descriptive, focusing on personal moments, feelings, or image-laden scenes. Limericks are humorous poems. They were popular with the publication of Edward Lear's Book of Nonsense in 1846. Haiku has a total of 17 syllables, a line of 5 syllables, a line of 7 syllables, and another line of 5 syllables. A concrete poem is written or printed on the page in a shape representing the poem's subject. Free verse, though relying on rhythm and cadence for its poetic form, is mostly unrhymed and lacks a consistent rhythm. Sensory is when you explain what something feels like in a poetry way that involves the senses: hear, smell, see, feel, and taste. A formula poem is a type of poem that follows a certain pattern. It can describe an idea or an emotion and is comprised of a specified number of syllables and lines. The lines are written in a fixed rhyme scheme, and they are interesting to read. Cinquain is a 5-line poem which is constructed with both syllable and part-of-speech constraints. A part-of-speech poem is written using the limitations of parts of speech. Couplet is a pair of successive rhyming lines, usually of the same length. A bio poem is a great way for students to introduce themselves to their teacher at the beginning of the year, and for you to introduce yourself to your students.